Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. This case we're covering today, the hunt for the Devil's Den killer. How horrific. A couple goes to a park, a state park in Arkansas, to take a hike with their two young children, 7 and 9-year-old girls, and they're accosted. We don't know how yet, but by this man you see in the sketch. And the Arkansas State Police are not telling us yet how Clinton and Cristen Brink were murdered. We just know they were murdered. And the two young girls had to run off to save their own lives and then to report it to police. Just a horrific situation. You can't even imagine, like, to try to go to a place that you think is safe. And the reality in this world is nowhere is safe, you know? And I always think about, and I spoke about it with Professor Mike before we went on the screen, is that everywhere I go with my wife and my kids, I'm strapped. I bring my 9mm, you know, and I don't care if it's the most innocuous place. But it's that old expression, rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Because it seems like, and we'll get into the investigation of this case, it seems like the attack may have taken place with a knife. Because we'll go into why we believe that later on. But just absolutely horrific that people can't go into a park without losing their life to some psycho, you know. And you never, ever know where these psychos are going to show up, you know. So, folks, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your loved ones. Hold on to your service dog. Hold on to your cup of coffee. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From Major League Baseball, UFC to tennis, and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. BetOnline. The game starts here. So joining me tonight, of course, is the very capable, the very man of reason, retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Welcome, Mike.
Bill, thank you for having me on. Good to see you. Good evening.
You know, Mike, this comes on the heels of the murder of Sunshine Stewart, who was paddleboarding and wound up losing her life to some 17-year-old savage who's been arrested and charged with it. And here we have a couple with their two kids, 7 and 9 years old, hiking in an Arkansas state park. And this man, who you see in the sketch, apparently attacks them and takes their life. Just absolutely horrific. And I'm going to tell you something. I believe that he's going to get caught. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to get caught. But someone knows this guy. Look at that sketch. That's a pretty damn good sketch, right? And I have no doubt that this is a stranger to the couple that was murdered. They don't know him. They weren't targeted. This was this savage who went into this park for the sole purpose of murdering someone. On another channel, another YouTube content creator posted a video, and I don't know how he knows, but a video from some civilian that has video of a black car that is allegedly belonging to the perpetrator. And they don't know whether it's a Mazda or a Kia, but they believe, or at least this content creator believes, it is the car. The Arkansas State Police haven't commented on it. What they have commented on is that there is a dark car involved in this case belonging to the perpetrator, and he covered up the license plate with black tape so it couldn't be read by cameras or human beings after he did his dirty deed, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, the Brinks, they're sitting there with their kids on Saturday, taking a walk through a beautiful park. You've done that with your children, and I've done it with mine. There's a place called Pound Ridge Reservation up in Westchester. I've gone there many times with my kids growing up. It's a beautiful place. Parts of it are really isolated, and you go there. But I always had my little 38 with me just in case, a nice big walking stick just in case. You just never know. But how many hundreds and hundreds of people were probably in that park that day, because it was a beautiful day. It's the weekend, it's the summertime. There's biking trails there. There's hiking trails there. This is not like rural, Alaska in December. No, this is right down in Northwest Arkansas near Fayetteville. And it's a beautiful place. And so you and I discussed this. It doesn't seem like it's some sort of assassination or intended for these two people in particular, that may, because of their circumstances and the time frame of day, broad daylight. But it is perplexing because apparently this young male, mid-20s or 30, he's walking through on the trail. He saw a number of people beforehand, and then he walks past them, but then he meets up with this other couple, the Brinks, and their children, and attacks them. I don't think it was a pointed attack at them, but he does have a screw loose. He's a savage, and people are really scared about it. But even though there's not a lot of cameras in the trail, there's probably cameras near the parking lot and going outside onto public roads. So we should hope that we could find some information from those cameras.
I just want to discuss the picture with the male on the right side of this thumbnail.
Right.
That is allegedly the perpetrator. And he's got a backpack. And Mike, I think you know more about this than I do. You want to just pick up the narration from here?
Yeah, apparently people have been calling in tips to the the hotline that's been set up, and they think that his model backpack, because he's got a backpack and then he also has another pack on top of that. They think it's what they call a High Sierra model. It's very commonly sold at JCPenney and Costco and places like that for just backpacking. That shirt that he's wearing, that long sleeve, looks like a long sleeve t-shirt, that looks like a North Face t-shirt with a graphic on the back of like a sun setting, a beautiful, nice little thing. So that may help a little bit if somebody has bought that kind of backpack in that area fairly recently. And we do know that he may himself have been cut, and they think it may be a knife wound because there was some bleeding in the park and on the ground. So hoping that it'll be his DNA.
Mike, that's one of the consequences usually of when someone attacks with a knife, that they cut themselves. And let's hope that his DNA is left on the scene. And if they have to go that extra step further and do an investigative genetic genealogical tree to identify this guy. But I think that this sketch is a very good sketch. And I think that someone in this area is going to know who this guy is. And some of the things that I would be checking, I'd be checking recent parolees that have gotten out of prison very recently. Even go to the local prison, get that sketch into the prison, get this sketch all over the nearest county to the Devil's Den Park, they also have to do an extensive canvass. How did he get into the park? There's on the way into the park, there's cameras out. Every gas station along a highway or along even a service road has video cameras.
Sure.
So part of the Arkansas State Police, their job is to do an extensive canvass. In addition, I would get out there, and even if you got to get rookie cops with 1,000 of these and go to traffic stops, traffic circles, and hand them to people. Someone knows this guy, and that someone's going to call in a tip, and they're going to find out who this guy is. This is too heinous of a crime for it not to be solved. It must be, it has to be, and it will be solved. Let me go to this little video
News
here.
24/7. Police in Arkansas searching for a suspect in the killings of a father and mother. Authorities said the couple was hiking in Devil's Den State Park with their 2 young daughters before they were found dead on Saturday. So I want to go to CBS News correspondent Chanel Call, who's been following this story from the newsroom. This story is hard to believe, and yet it happened. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, Jules, it's so heartbreaking. So Arkansas police are saying this now is a suspected homicide, and the suspect, they say, is still at large this hour. So local authorities have told us that 43-year-old Clinton Brink and 41-year-old Cristen Brink were both found dead at Devil's Den Park on Saturday. If you haven't been there, this is a big park. It's about 130 miles northwest of Little Rock. As you can see through some of this video here, it's an area that's known for hiking and these rock formations. And so authorities say their 2 daughters, they're 7 and 9, they were not hurt during what happened. And they're now being cared for by some family members. But what we're seeing take place on the ground is this manhunt is continuing for the suspected killer. And police, Jules, describe this person as a white male wearing dark pants, a dark ball cap, sunglasses, and finger gloves. They say he also had a black backpack. Now, he was believed to be wearing a long sleeve shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Instead, I'll note, of a dark tank top. That was what was originally reported. And he was also seen driving toward a park exit in a black 4-door sedan with a license plate, Jules, that was partially covered by tape. So this manhunt is continuing, and the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism have now said rangers there have stepped up patrols at Devil's Den, and investigators, Jules, are now asking anyone who was in this area over the weekend to go through your phone, review those photos, review those videos, if you took any here at Devil's Park, because they want to see if anyone might have clues that could be helpful to police in the course of this investigation.
Absolutely. Please, and as soon as possible. Chanel.
So again, they're taking a page out of the Boston Marathon investigation, where all civilians were asked to submit their videos and their still photos to the FBI website. I don't know. I would imagine the Arkansas State Police have a website. They've requested that folks that have pictures or videos, they not post them on social media. They don't want to give the perp a heads up. They want to give the police a heads up and give them the information. Now, they have a pretty good idea of what the car he was in looks like, but they don't have a license plate number since he premeditatedly covered the license plate with black tape. So he knew what he was about to do. But many people obviously got a good look at him because this is an outstanding sketch. I would think that if someone knows this guy, they're gonna say, "Oh, that's Joe Bob, whoever," you know. And I'm just using that facetious name, but people will know because that's an excellent sketch. Police artist sketches, they're not always great. Sometimes they are great. And in this one looks extremely good to me. Like someone that could actually be identified through the sketch. And as I said, I would go out there to the criminal justice people, parole officers, probation officers. He's got very chiseled features, maybe of someone that lifts weights or is a laborer. He has that look. He has that almost lumberjack look, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, you know, he's a local guy. He knows the woods. He's probably versed in hiking. There are some characters that have been called out from TikTok people. I won't mention their names. That's possibly a suspect. but he's known in the community. He's known by somebody. If this person is your friend and you see that picture of the possible perpetrator with the back turned to you with the backpack on and the shirt, you probably could recognize that person from behind. So you know who they are. So we hope that by canvassing the area and looking at all of the things that we didn't have, say, 30 years ago, all the cameras all over the place, as you say, Billy, at gas stations along a highway, residences, ring camera doorbells in the area, because people do live in that area off the trail. It's not going to be a Zodiac killer kind of thing where DB Cooper, where this person is going to get away. No, this is going to be solved. And we hope that in the struggle that they have, the husband and wife, they have some sort of DNA from this character on under their fingernails, or in grabbing them. He had fingerless gloves, which would mean that it's possible his skin is going to make contact with their clothing, so that they may have a trace of DNA that way. You could upload into CODIS to see if he's been arrested before, and you could, it's going to take a while, but if not, and you draw a blank, then you're going to do the investigative genetic genealogy, and it's going to take a while, but you can build out some sort of website, some sort of family tree. But they'll catch this person. He's not running from here to Arkansas, out to Washington, or up to Alaska. This is a local person, and he's a local, pardon my language, psycho that probably he is known as being. And when they catch him, he's probably will be said that, there was a lot of warning signs about this guy being, over the edge. But I'm guaranteeing this guy's going to get caught.
Absolutely. Wowsy Pony. Who described the perp for that sketch? The little kids? Well, Wowsy Pony, some adults saw him before he attacked the Clinton Brink and his wife, Cristen Brink. So I would imagine they would use the adults so as not to traumatize the kids again, to ask them. If they would have used the kids if they had to, but now that they had some adults that said they saw him and they were very leery of him, they felt that he was about to do something to them. So I would imagine the sketch was drawn based upon the recollections of some adults that saw him right before the attacks. Now, the other thing is that when we talk about, the forensic evidence potential that he left DNA in the way of blood on the scene, potentially the husband and wife fought back, and they may have his DNA on their bodies or their clothing. And, the canvas of the park also, when they have this sketch, they can go back out with the sketch and ask people, did anyone see this guy prior to this occurring? Was he walking around? What was he doing? We know this was premeditated because he covered up his license plate with black tape so no one would be able to read it. So an extensive police canvas, and the Arkansas State Police also has to use the media. The media is your best friend in a case like this. Get the message out there. Get this sketch out there all over the place. As I said, someone knows this guy, right? That's an excellent, excellent sketch. Maybe canvas locations that sell these backpacks with the sketch. Maybe he bought it recently. I've had success like that in Manhattan North Homicide, where we identified a tote bag, a really big, it was a suitcase. And it turned out the perp bought it like 2 blocks away so that it fit a body in it. And he was identified through the video in that store. So this can happen. And it takes a lot of what we call gumshoe work. Get the detectives out there, get them talking to people, get them engaging with the public. That's how you solve crimes, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, they're good. It's going to take a while. But the good thing is there was a lot of people in the park that day. It was broad daylight, and he had to go past a number of people to get to the place where he was, where he attacked that couple, the Brinks. and he did walk by some people, and they said they were very leery. And as you said, they're the ones who provided the details of the sketch. But hopefully, there are some cameras on that trail, according to the rangers that are there, and so they'll be able to hopefully, figure out all of his movements from when he got there, what he did, beforehand, how many people he passed, when he left, which way did he go. But it's going to take a while, but it will be solved, because this isn't a guy who doesn't know the area. He knows that area. He probably has Arkansas plates on his car. Using the tape is consciousness of guilt. You know what you're going to do. It's an indication that you're going to commit a criminal act, and he did that. Hopefully, that even though he covered up the plate number, if there's just enough in establishments with cameras on them, they may be able to trace his movements out and which way to go, left or right out of the parking lot, left or right on the interstate, that sort of thing. Hopefully they'll catch him that way. But he's not far from being caught, because he was comfortable enough to walk around during daylight. That's a local person.
Something, another thing that we're discounting, and I believe that this sketch is good enough that they possibly can put the sketch into facial recognition technology. And it potentially could, and it's not a foolproof technology, but it's just a tool. So if they put this sketch into facial recognition technology, they may come up with 10 or 15 or 20 possibilities so that's called gumshoe work too. That's investigatory work. And let's not, in this day and age, all the technology available. And the problem is with a horrible case like this is that we want an arrest yesterday, and the detectives have to take their time and do a methodical job and question people and come up with a name for this. This is from News Nation.
Bring in Tony Bruschi, host of the Hidden Killers podcast, who's based in Arkansas and who's been on this story from the start. Thank you so much for being with us, Tony. A devastating story. You spoke with a couple that may have seen the suspect. I mean, what did they have to say? And when you first heard about it, your reaction?
They said they are 100% sure that this was the suspect that they saw on the trail. That's what they left us with. But what they brought in was a story much like many others that day, out on a beautiful summer day near 100 degrees in Arkansas, heat index of 104 that afternoon. And they were out walking. The couple was together with a brother and sister and a pet dog. And down the trail, they saw a man coming their way, and they immediately found him to be odd. He was by himself, but the way he was dressed in full black attire from top to bottom, and on a mission, it seemed, wearing a large mesh backpack that was very out of place, as you see in the graphic that's on the screen right now. They didn't know what was going on, but as he approached, they described it as a death stare that they got as he looked at them all up and down. And they all had very visceral reactions, describing it very much as bad energy coming off of this guy. And they didn't know much else until the very next day when they heard about it on the news, and they all looked at each other and said, that was the guy that passed us. And when the sketch came out today, which actually was based on their observations that they gave to us here at the Hidden Killers podcast, they thought that composite was very, very accurate to what they saw.
Wow. I mean, talk about trusting your gut, right? I mean, so many of us go hiking on the regular, and it's, but when you're out there and you get out in the woods, you do sometimes have that sense of, man, I mean, there's places on hiking trails where nobody could hear you scream. Tell us a little bit about where this hiking trail is. You're from Arkansas. You're there now. Is this a safe area? Do a lot of people go there?
It is. It's just outside the city of Fayetteville and also Bentonville and Rogers. It's otherwise known as the NWA area, Northwest Arkansas. Walmart is headquartered here. So it is a very safe area. It has a very stable and good economy and very low crime. It's not what you think of when you think of Arkansas, I guess, a stereotypical version. It's more of a Colorado type hiking area. Outdoors is what they do here. We have one of the largest biking trail paths in the country. I think it actually might be the largest, interconnecting all of these cities. And people use these things every single day without incident.
It sounds like whoever the suspect is knew the area well. And I understand that you have obtained some security footage of what may be the suspect's car. We want to show that to our viewers because, of course, any clue can help. Tell us about what we're watching on our screen right now.
This is some footage that we obtained here. This is a security camera off of a home very near where the park entrance is. This is the vehicle heading north on Highway 170, about 2 miles north of the Yellow Rock exit. It was described, and this is the words of the man who shot it, and he's also what you would call a car guy. So he got into it with me. We got about a 10-minute conversation on our podcast. Black four-door sedan, quad exhaust tips, 2 on each side, matte or semi-gloss black paint, tinted windows, black rims, small spoilers, sleek spoiler luxury design, no visible license plate, completely taped over. He said it sounded like an active exhaust, probably going 60 to 70 miles an hour. He, unlike what the police have put out right now, he disagrees. He's not sure if it's a Mazda. He said it could be, but in his opinion, it might not be. He thought it was more of an Audi Acura TLX, possibly a Mercedes. We've seen a lot of other chatter on that now that we've released that video as well. Lots of people chiming in and giving their thoughts on that, and several even using AI to try and get identification.
Thank you.
So again, I wasn't quick enough to stop Cuomo again this time. I don't know if that is in fact the car. I hope it is the car, and I hope that they can identify it as to the FBI has experts they'll figure out, they'll enhance the car, they'll enhance the video, they'll figure out exactly what kind of make that car is. Now, if it in fact has the tape on the license plate and they can see that at some point, that lends a lot of credence to this. But the thing is now they also have a time, because there would be a timestamp to that video, and they can follow where did he go after he left the park? Is there a camera at the exit to the park? And then we can just keep canvassing where he went, where this vehicle went, and it's a tremendous investigative resource. I'm glad that this podcaster Tony Bruschi was able to get that video. I don't know if the Arkansas State Police are signifying that yes, that is, or verifying that is in fact the car. I don't know how you would actually do that, but I hope it is the car. This gives them several more leads, Mike.
Yeah, Billy, if it is the car, the FBI, just like in the case of the Idaho 4 killings with prisoner 163214, they were able to enhance it and figure out a fairly close range of what kind of make and model it was. And so they could probably do the same sort of thing here. And if you got that, if it is indeed his car and that's him driving away, and just like they did with Pullman, Washington, you start pulling all the videotapes from all the places and figure out how he got to where he got and what time. That's terrific. So you hope that you can do that sort of thing fairly quickly. Let's hope it's not, a dead end, and maybe that just happens to be one young guy driving down the street that has nothing to do with this crime. Hopefully that would be a huge piece of evidence to have that in their back pocket to help you figure out, where he's going. If you've got that sort of those sort of cameras, that would be fantastic. But this is a local guy. He's probably been in when he is caught. The record will be that he probably has been in and out of psychiatric institutions. He's probably had some sort of criminal activity, criminal past, and hope that there's DNA on the Brinks, and so they can get his DNA. Because if he has attacked people in the past, violently attacked people in the past, and his DNA has been uploaded to CODIS, then they could get a match. But he won't be long before he's caught.
Absolutely. Tambolina from the chat, possible targeting. He walks by other people and decides to kill a couple with kids. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, does it? That he picks certain people. He passes by. Well, in the other group, there may have been 2 males and 2 females. So
Yeah.
there was maybe 2 more males that he wanted to deal with, and he chose the weaker of the 2 groups. And the other group, of course, had the 2 little girls, 7 and 9. And apparently, from what I'm reading in the chat, the mother guided those 2 little girls away and said, run away. And then she went back to help her husband. And she lost her life over that. CBS News is reporting that the Arkansas State Police said they believe the suspect in the murder of the couple hiking with their daughters at Devil's Den State Park was injured while attacking the pair. Clinton David Brink, 43, and Cristen Amanda Brink were hiking with their young daughters when they were attacked. The couple were found dead on a walking trail. The family had recently moved to the area from another state, according to the Arkansas State Police. Their daughters, aged 7 and 9, are being cared for by the family. Police said in a news release they believe the suspect likely sustained an injury while attacking the couple, but did not say how the suspect may have been injured or what led them to believe that was the case. Family members said that in a statement that the Brinks died heroes protecting the little girls, but did not elaborate. And we know what the suspect was wearing. And they also saying that they believe he fled in a dark 4-door sedan. The vehicle may be a Mazda with a covered license plate. So a lot of information, a lot of good evidence. And let's hope that he did get injured and there is blood evidence or DNA evidence on the scene, because they will be absolutely visiting this guy and he will get arrested. They have to keep the pressure on. They have to keep the detectives out there, keep that tips log. In New York City, we have 1-800-577-TIPS. I don't know what they have in Arkansas, but they need to keep this story in the public eye so people keep phoning in tips. Even if they perhaps see a car that fits this description, okay, bring it in, give it to us. We'll check everything. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, I was thinking if he's injured and he's bleeding, he's either going to go to emergency room if it's bad enough, but he may not think that, that's where he would go logically and the police would go there, or he'd stop off in maybe a pharmacy somewhere. And people usually have cameras by their cash register. And so you could review that sort of thing also. But hopefully he will have gone somewhere, the local CVS or Walgreens, to get some sort of band-aids or something like that would be all you would need to help track him down. But it is weird that he did pass by a number of other people. But as you say, the group may have been a little too big and that he felt maybe comfortable attacking, and maybe he overcame that couple from behind. And so therefore he would have the element of surprise. We don't know, but there's a reason why he picked out the Brinks. Probably not because he knew them or anything like that, but just because they seemed more vulnerable to what he wanted to do. He wanted to, off somebody, commit homicide for whatever reason. And they, for some reason, seemed like the, I hate to say it, but most vulnerable or best target for him to do that to. But he's not a genius. He's not going to vanish into the woods and be gone forever. He's got a car, and they'll figure out through DMV also, pull up how many local people, start locally, how many local people, how many local males have, whatever kind of car the FBI says it is, and start breaking it down like they did in the case of prisoner 163214, figuring out how many people from out of state live in the area with a white Hyundai. So this is the kind of similar kind of search to do for this killer.
Absolutely. This again was from News Nation, because I think that they should probably bring the FBI in there into this case for the behavioral analysis unit, because this is a rare modus operandi. someone doesn't just go into a park dressed like this guy's dressed, and attack a couple that are walking with their children and murder them. And I think we're going to probably find out that the murder weapon was a knife. I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to find out, because that's the only thing that makes sense as to why, if he used a gun, he wouldn't have been injured. If he used a knife, and I'm sure that Clinton Brink was fighting for his and his wife's life, and this guy, I'm sure, used a knife to overcome their resistance and kill them.
On this is Chris Swecker, who's former assistant FBI assistant director. Chris, thanks for coming on. I'm so sorry it's under these circumstances. This is day 3 of the manhunt. He left the park. The license plates were covered. How do you even go about finding that vehicle now?
Yeah, you can assume that he's either ditched the license plate and or the car. And, there was no real-time chase. They were probably several hours behind him, because I think it took the children a good while to make their way back to the visitor center. So he has got a very, very long head start. So this is challenging, and I think that's why you see the Arkansas State Police being so proactive in going out to the public with their description of the car. All the little details are out there now. Those are the only details we're getting. We don't have much details about the actual crime scene, but clearly they are being very active out there and trying to get the help of the American public.
Chris, given the remote location and how the suspect escaped, does this seem random or targeted to you?
It seems, this is not the first time that something like this has happened in a state or a federal park, national park. But this one does seem random, and all of the others that we've seen in other parks were indeed random. But unfortunately, the remote nature of these types of parks make it perfect for predators like this person here, this murderer here, who can patrol, and sort of troll at will, and choose his victims, and go into action. It's a clinical way of describing it. But unfortunately, the national parks are places where killers like this can hunt.
With your experience in the FBI, what stands out to you about this crime from a behavioral or investigative perspective?
What stands out is that there were 2 children there, that, he chose victims with 2 children. And that seems so incredibly impulsive. If he was going through the park looking for victims, you would think he would choose a lone person or a couple without children who could either you have to deal with as witnesses, or understand that they're going to get back somewhere and report the crimes. But I think he was more interested in getting out of there quickly and not wasting any time. He put tape over his license plate, so he clearly had presence of mind. Maybe he did that ahead of time. And the description of the car, we don't have the tag itself. All we have is the description of the car. So there's some calculating maneuvers here and some evidence of pre-planning.
This is just so tragic. Local police are, like you mentioned, asking the public for help in finding any images, video, information about the suspect with limited surveillance, because this being a state park. How do you narrow a suspect profile?
Yeah, I mean, the calls for video is pretty random, because it's so remote out there. You deal with this by tracing the routes that they think he left. There's only a certain couple of entrances and exits, and then track to where the first camera location is, because there are cameras everywhere, at gas stations, at businesses along the way. There are ring videos, there are cars, there's residences. You really got to get out there and do the gumshoe work and do the neighborhood investigations, trying to get some video to see if you can get a better description of the car and the killer.
Chris, how critical is time when it comes to tracking down a murderer like this?
Yeah, I mean, I always say the first 24 hours are critical. In this case, I mean, thankfully he didn't take the children with him.
Yeah.
That is one thing we don't have to deal with. As in law enforcement, they can sort of be very deliberate in how they conduct this search. They don't have to panic, and they don't have to deal with a compressed time frame. So, this person is going to get cited somewhere. They always do. And I think we're going to find that this is not the first time this has happened. This type of killing, it seems like they're not isolated instances.
I just want to say, I was right on at that time.
Good job.
I just want to say that someone asked, how do the police know that he was injured? Well, there's several ways. One is there's blood on the scene that doesn't belong to either one of the victims. And B, there's blood on the victim's clothing that doesn't belong to either one of them. That is how they would know. And also, if the little girls were on the scene when the fight was going on, I'm sure their dad was fighting for his life, and so was their mom. So the chances that this mutt, this piece of shit, sustained an injury are very high. But I would think the more logical way is that they found his blood on the scene. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. You like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, you're in the right place. And please hit the like button, the share button, make comments, and share us with your family and friends. If you want to contribute to us, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We have a YouTube channel membership with 5 different levels, and you can join the Police Off the Cuff YouTube family by becoming a channel member. So that person we just saw in that video is a retired FBI assistant director in charge. So he's very articulate. He knows the investigative. Look, this guy's getting caught. But all of us sitting here and talking about it right now, we want him caught now. We want him caught yesterday. Right. No time is fast enough to catch this mutt, but he is absolutely 100% going to get caught. Now, what can we all do? Well, those of us that live in Arkansas or around this, we can be diligent. And that old expression that comes from the 9/11 attacks, if you see something, say something. And not just say it, call it in to the hotline. Let the police know. If anyone knows this guy, the phone should be ringing off the hook about this guy. This is really an outstanding sketch. And usually when a sketch is this good, it looks a lot like the person who was in great detail and depth described by 4 adults to the sketch artist. Mike.
Yeah, Bill. And even with that sketch, they could use AI and create it as almost a photograph. And so you might get even, more recognition from the public about who this person might be. And you'd also hope that any family members of this person, brothers and sisters might say, that looks an awful lot like, who. You would hope that would happen. But he's a local person. He's known by a lot of people. He's not someone who's driven from, say, California all the way to Arkansas, commit the crime, and go back out. He's well known in the community. He's probably has family in the community. He probably has had a job in the past in that community, somewhere in that community. He didn't travel probably very far. He went to that location because he wanted to hurt somebody, similar to the gunman we had in Midtown Manhattan. That case, though, he drove from Nevada, but you get to the location, you get to a specific location, and you got something in mind. He drove to that specific location, and he had something in mind. And he, at the last minute, he picked out this couple. And so it was a very random thing that poor couple, as they say, they happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when this person was hunting for a victim. If not them, it would have been another person or two somewhere along the trail. But in the middle of the day, broad daylight on a busy day in the summertime with a lot of bicyclists and hikers around, it really, even though it's very quiet, there are quiet areas, it doesn't make sense to do it at that time. This person isn't thinking like an assassin. This person probably has some deep mental health issues, and this is how they acted out.
100%. And I think that, it's good in these cases to bring the FBI in, because they have all the resources, they have all the money, they have facial recognition technology. They could even do something with phones. Who knows? The perpetrator probably had a phone,
Right.
Geofencing. You know, they can pull up all the phones being used at a specific time and place, and voila, you got the perpetrator ID through his phone. So these are tools that not everyone knows that the FBI has, and they do have this. So he is not the smartest cat on earth, but he did take some precautions. For example, he took precautions in pre-taping his license plate so that it wouldn't be identified. You know, Digital Hobo from the chat. He passed 4 people and a dog on the trail who saw him and gave a description for the sketch. They gave them a bad feeling and looked them up and down. You know, Digital Hobo, thank you for that. But the other thing is he didn't choose them. A, they had a dog, and B, there were 4 of them. So he chose to attack the group that appeared to be weaker, Doug Ross, member for a month. Well, thank you for joining. FBI will get this dude. Maybe they are on him now. Look, they're Arkansas State Police, the FBI, and every state unit is working on this case. They want to get this case. This is a horrific crime. This is someone that needs to get caught. The problem is we all want this to happen yesterday, and good investigation takes time. You cannot be sloppy. You have to cross your T's, dot your I's, and you have to give this all the resources that it needs in order to get a positive outcome to this investigation.
Still looking for a suspect in connection with the death of a couple hiking in a park in Arkansas. Police say they have some leads. They released this photo and composite sketch of a person wanted for questioning. The incident happened on Saturday when Clinton and Cristen Brink were at Devil's Den State Park with their 2 young daughters. Luckily, those children were not hurt in the attack. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca live in West Fork, Arkansas, just north of Devil's Den. Omar, what do we know about this photo and the person in it?
Well, Mugo, that photo came from a tip, basically. And in that photo, investigators say that's a person that they want to talk to, like you mentioned, a person of interest, to find out what happened. Now, in that photo, it seems to be a man. They believe it's a white man with a medium build. He's wearing a ball cap. He's got dark clothes on. He's also got a black backpack on with shoes. And the interesting thing that they've noted that this person was wearing fingerless gloves, which is kind of something to keep an eye out for. They're telling people here. And that's the person that they want to talk to about what happened here last Saturday.
But do police have any other information about what happened during and even after the attack?
Well, we understand the family was hiking here in Devil's Den. It's a popular spot for people to come hike. There's a lot of parks here in the state of Arkansas. And there was some sort of confrontation. The 7 and 9-year-old daughters were not harmed, but they ended up going up to a visitor's station. And that's when they alerted the authorities. When the authorities went, that's when they found the bodies of those 2 children's parents. They're also looking for what they're saying is a 4-door sedan, possibly a Mazda, and it had tape on the license plate, kind of obstructing the license. So they're looking for that vehicle as well. And listen, just coming in and out from south of Fort Smith and north of us is Fayetteville, where University of Arkansas is. You see police vehicles stationed on the side of the road, and not the type that are kind of looking for speeders. So there is a presence around here right now as this investigation is ongoing.
So where exactly are police looking right now? Just near the Devil's Den, or where?
Well, here they have part of it as they're processing the scene. The trailheads and things are closed right now. But right now they're looking for more clues. In fact, investigators are being very tight-lipped about this. They're asking people that if they were in the park on Saturday, check their cell phones. Maybe they had a GoPro camera. If they have game cameras, which are like when you capture wildlife on cameras that are motion activated, check those. And they don't want people posting those pictures if they have them with clues. They want them to send them to police. They're trying to kind of keep the integrity of the investigation together. They don't want things getting out of hand and people accusing other people of things here. They just want to see this evidence. That picture came from a tip. So they want to find more of that to try to piece together where this suspect may be and maybe who the suspect is.
Yeah, and I'm sure the community has a lot of questions. So any reaction from them? Because police have not said if this was targeted or if this person is just going out there trying to hurt people.
Yeah, I mean, police are very, like I said, they're very tight-lipped about this, but people around the area are saying this doesn't happen here. This is very, they're shocked by this. This is a popular hiking spot, and we're at the time of year, school hasn't started yet, so people are getting their last-minute plans out. And keep in mind that we've learned that this family just recently moved here to Arkansas. From what we understand, they had lived in Montana before and in California before, so they had just moved here. So people are shocked. They can't believe what happened. As a matter of fact, we've heard interviews where this place is usually packed and there's cars coming in and out. But now, since this incident happened and the investigation is ongoing, it's kind of quiet right now. So police obviously want to find out what happened and find that suspect.
So, Grateful 1111, thank you for the $10 super sticker. I am probably wrong, but I get a feeling that this was targeted. It could be an ex-coworker, and not even a coworker, but someone from his new or old employer. Thoughts? No one else has been murdered since. Grateful 1111, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you. I think this was a random attack. One of the reasons I also believe it was a random attack is because he bypassed another group that he didn't attack, and they felt very leery of this individual. And then when he saw Clinton and Cristen Brink and their two young children, that's who he decided to attack. So for those reasons, I believe this was a random attack. Mike?
Yeah, we think it is. But however, when you go to do the victimology, Grateful maybe have a point. They may look to see why did they move? How recently did they move? Were there any threats involved when they moved? They'd like to go through that couple's phone, their email, talk to the children at a later time, do that victimology, figure out what was going on in their lives before they got there. Because it is kind of weird that they just got there really recently and they'd be attacked. So it could possibly be that maybe they had some sort of threats, or there was some sort of reason why they decided to move from Montana or California to Arkansas. Is a possibility, but it could be. But we're not thinking at this point that it is. I think that it's the randomness of it kind of discounts that theory.
One of the things that I wanted to address is the fingerless gloves. I'll tell you why he was wearing them. He was wearing them because when you stab someone and get blood on your hands, the knife slips in your hand. So he was wearing those gloves to get a better grip of the knife. All right. Someone from the chat, Wilesy Pony, just asked, what's the difference between a serial killer and a mass murderer? A mass murderer will kill numerous people at one time. A serial killer, it's two or more events separated by time in between. There's the definition. Google will say it's three more. They're wrong. The definition is given by the FBI, and it's two or more events, murders, with time in between. So I also wanted to address the DNA, the potential DNA left on the scene. CODIS is the combined DNA index system, which is run by the FBI. There's two categories of DNA in CODIS. One is offender and one is forensic DNA. Right now, if they do have DNA from the crime scene, that will go into CODIS as forensic DNA because it's unidentified DNA. Could this offender's DNA already be in CODIS? Yes, but could it not be in CODIS? Yes. Therefore, they may not get a hit in CODIS, even if they have his DNA. The other thing that we've been seeing, which is just miraculous, is something called investigative genetic genealogy, where they take DNA and they build a family tree and they figure out who did it by building this family tree. And we've seen, well, that's how Koberger from the Idaho 4 case was identified. Just brilliance from law enforcement, and the science of investigation is unbelievable. But guess what, guys? All these things that I'm talking about take time. They don't happen overnight. It's not a 24-hour thing. It's not a 36-hour. It takes a while to do this. But if they do have the evidence, they have the DNA evidence, he's going to get caught. And as I said, I love this photo. I love this sketch because whenever you see a sketch that is that good, what it says to me is they got a really good witness that gave the artist really explicit directions on how this guy looked. Because the sketch artist doesn't do it one time. They keep making changes as the witness says, no, that's not his jaw. That's not his jaw. This is, make it a little squarer. And his chin he's got little fuzz on his, so the sketch artist is trained in not just drawing, but interviewing the witness so that the sketch will come back looking like what the witness saw. Mike.
Yeah, Bill. And as you pointed out earlier in the show, geofencing, and I didn't even think of that at the time because, prisoner 163214, even though he turned his phone off, he still had his phone with him the entire time and then turned it back on, which was indicative of consciousness of guilt. But if this person just didn't think about his phone, my phone is in my pocket. I've got a family, and wherever I go, it's in my pocket. I never think to turn it on or off. The only thing I ever do with it is I charge it up like every other day. But I never think about turning it off. And I think maybe if this person did not turn it off, isn't wily enough to do that, it's going to take a while again because this stuff all takes time. But you could get that geofencing location indicator to see what were all of the phones in that area. And if we know exactly when he left, so you got it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2:15, you go from 2:15 back an hour or something like that, and you can narrow it down. But that too is amazing technology, cutting edge technology, phone technology that can help narrow it down really quickly, like similar that backed up all of the DNA evidence in the case of prisoner 163214. Really important stuff.
Absolutely. Regina and Friends Crime Chat, thank you for the $2 super sticker. He chose them for a reason doesn't mean he targeted, in my opinion. Regina, I'm arrogant, but I'm not that arrogant that I would say that I'm always right. And the reason I think it wasn't targeted, that it was random, is because of what I just said before, that he passed up a group and they were walking with their children, 7 and 9. So that says something to me. And again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times before, but that's my thoughts. And I worked on murders, for my last 10 years on the NYPD, and I did 27 years in the NYPD. So it's that's the feeling I get. Digital Hobo, they said he might have been injured during the attack, so hopefully they're running his DNA. Yeah, Digital Hobo, I was just speaking upon that. But it's not as easy as like running it, like you just throw it into a machine and say, oh, whose is this? It has to be processed, collected properly, processed, and then it has to be submitted first to CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System run by the FBI, of which I said before, there's 2 categories, offender and forensic. So if he is in CODIS and they have his blood or his DNA, they'll make a match. But many times, the offender who you have the forensic DNA from, his DNA is not in CODIS. So they would go to Plan B, which would be investigative genetic genealogy. Word sleuth, excellent thought. And Rachel Marin's murder, the killer. Yes. His DNA was not in CODIS, and it took them about 8 or 9 months to build a genetic genealogical family tree, and he was identified. So again, these things don't happen overnight, and we expect that easy button, like we're all used to the they used to call it the with forensics, they used not the easy button, they used to call it like absolute, speaking in absolutes. If there's no this, it was called the CSI effect. That's the word I was looking for. So everyone expects that the police just to be able to do amazing things, some things that they actually cannot do. They can do amazing scientific things and amazing evidentiary things, but some things they actually can't do that television tells us they can do. Mike.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with juries too, is that, and the public, they expect it's like CSI Miami, where they get a fingerprint and the person is always in the system already. They get the fingerprint, they run it through something that looks like an old Xerox copy machine from the 1970s. And then you see on a screen a million photographs pass by real quickly, and suddenly, boom, you got a hit. That's the guy who left the fingerprint. That's not how it works, but people think it does. And people think that every time that you get a criminal's fingerprint, that he's already been fingerprinted, so you have him in the system. And that's really not the case. But yeah, it's really difficult to get people to realize that things, sometimes we get lucky breaks. Sometimes witnesses will give you a terrific hint. You've got phone stuff, you've got DNA stuff, you got fingerprinting, you've got all kinds of things. But it does take time. And you've done this, Phil's done this, I've done this a little bit, not nearly as much as you, but you'll work for 36, 48 hours straight, and you're going, and you can't even see straight after a while. That's what the Arkansas State Police are doing right now. Hopefully they've got the FBI already involved, the local police, but they're not stopping it all. And that helps, but this takes time. And that's what the public has to realize. It takes time.
Absolutely. Someone in the chat asked me, how old do I think this perpetrator is? Based on his, the sketch, and the sketch could either be super accurate or just not showing age. I'd say he's late 40s to early 50s. That's my guesstimate. And again, I'm not always right, but I think I have a pretty good track record of sort of guesstimating age. And based on, and again, we're basing this on a sketch. Regina and Friends Crime Chat, thank you for the $5 super sticker. I knew the serial killer Robert Eugene Brasher's babysat for him. He died in 1999 and was identified through Ancestry DNA in 2018. This feels familiar. Wow. That's a crazy story, right? To have babysat for a serial killer. So to do like a recap, the state police now, they believe that he was injured in this attack on Clayton and Cristen Brink. How do they know that? Potentially he left blood on the scene or blood on the clothing of the victims. A really good sketch exists that we showed a million times during the course of this show. There we have it. It's up on the screen again. Someone asked how long were the victims in the park before they were attacked? I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question, because that's all part of the victimology. You know, the other thing was the couple was found dead way after the fact, right? Well, not way after, but an hour, 2 hours after. So that's the crime scene that's going to tell forensic investigators a lot that we don't know. What did they find out from the crime scene? What did they find out from the injuries on the victims? It's routine that in the autopsies, in a murder case like this, they're going to go underneath the fingernails of the victims and scrape potential skin DNA that could belong to the perpetrator. On their clothing, there could be blood from the perpetrator. All of those things are part of this crime scene. A search of the location, of course, for anything that the perpetrator may have discarded that could lead us directly to the perpetrator. So all of these things we do not know the answers to, but the Arkansas State Police absolutely do know the answers to, but they're keeping very tight-lipped. And I don't blame them, right? In these investigations, you have to use the press, you have to use the community, but you don't have to tell them everything you have. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, because you're going to get a lot of people, if they're going to get stimulated by this, and you don't want them to have too much information where they get stimulated enough where they're starting to call into a log. We saw this in the case of the Idaho 4 with prisoner 163214. People were saying all kinds of things that are way offline, and so that doesn't help the investigation, because when a tip comes in, somebody's got to investigate each and every tip. And so hopefully the tips that they do get and the information they do get from possible witnesses somewhere along the line, either before or after the fact, has some merit to it. But getting the public involved in this sort of thing with that picture and of his back and that artist rendition, that's what you need. That's what you need more than anything else, for someone to say, I know a guy who looks like he's about, like, say, 40 years old, whatever. This is why I think that something that's valuable to the police that can move the investigation forward just a little bit each and every day.
Absolutely. I want to play a little bit of this from Law and Crime.
From Arkansas on the intense search for the Devil's Den State Park killer. I want you to get a good look at this picture. This is brand new, just put out by Arkansas State Police, of who they say is the person of interest in the murders of a mom and dad who were out for a weekend hike with their daughters. Also today, police put out this new sketch of what they say the killer's face may look like. The hope is that these new images will help in the manhunt to bring this person to justice. Police are still looking for the person who killed that mom and dad who had just moved to Arkansas and were out for a weekend hike with their daughters, ages 7 and 9. There's also a new clue put out by investigators that I will tell you that they hope can bring this manhunt to an end. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Clinton Brink. They were just out for a hike in Devil's Den State Park over the weekend in Northwest Arkansas with their two daughters, who are just 7 and 9 years old. Now, when you look at this image from Arkansas State Police, you can see that the person appears to be wearing a backpack, and you see little hints of blue in the design. This person of interest has long sleeves, a hat, long pants, which matches up with the description that was originally put out by state police. It's also important to note that state police say he was wearing sunglasses and he had fingerless gloves on. So think of like workout gloves that this person was wearing at the time of these murders, according to police. Police have been asking people who live in the area to review trail cameras if they have them, or if they were in the park on July 26th, that was Saturday, to review images that they took with their cameras on their phones, or maybe a GoPro, to see if they have any information or any images of this person of interest. Also new today is this image. Police put out this new sketch showing what the man's face may look like. You can see he has a little stubble on his face. Police described him as a white man with a medium build. There's also a key clue, little detail that investigators put out as they released that sketch, which could be critical in this manhunt, and I will get to that in just a moment. It's important to remember what this manhunt is all about and what this person of interest, according to police, allegedly did. They took the lives of this couple, two parents, Cristen and Clinton Brink. The two of them, they were in their 40s, and they had just moved to Arkansas from out of state. Previously, they lived in South Dakota and Montana. The Associated Press reports that Clinton Brink, the dad, was scheduled to start his new job on Monday as a milk delivery driver near Fayetteville, Arkansas. The mayor of their new town, where they moved to, said the water was turned on at their home just in the last couple of weeks. So they were brand new to this state. The pair, they were just out for a hike in Devil's Den State Park in Northwest Arkansas with their 7 and 9-year-old girls. Now that park, it is a couple hours away from Tulsa, Oklahoma, about a half hour south of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Police say this suspect attacked the couple inside the park around 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. And the two girls, those daughters, just 7 and 9 years old, were reportedly able to get away from the killer and make it to a visitor's station where they were able to alert the authorities, according to local media in Arkansas who have been covering this story. Now, the area of the park where the Brinks were killed, according to police, it had thick brush, it had rugged terrain, and it also was out of cell phone range, which is why they had to make it to that visitor center to be able to call 911. Here's the moment that police, when they arrived at the park, found the bodies of the Brinks. This is per KNWA TV.
I think I see you right there. I've got two bodies down here.
Now, those two girls, it is horrifying to think what they went through, but they are physically okay. And according to police, they are now in the care of family members. But again, you cannot understate the trauma and the horror that they must have witnessed out on the hike with their parents. The Brink family released a statement that said in part, Clinton and Cristen died heroes, protecting their little girls, and they deserve justice. They will forever live in all of our hearts. Now, the last time police say the suspect was seen, they were driving out of Devil's Den State Park, and they were in a black four-door sedan, and they believe it may be a Mazda. Important part here is that the license plate was blocked from view. It was covered by either electrical or duct tape. We also just learned this new big clue that I was talking about from state police when they released this sketch. Could be very, very key in the manhunt for this killer. They believe the suspect was injured during the attack. It is unclear why police believe this or just how serious the injury may be, the type of injury it may be. That is unclear, but we do know that law enforcement believe that this suspect was hurt during the attack. And police are also hoping that anyone who lives near the park or may have been in the park has pictures on their cell phones or maybe some GoPro footage that might have captured something suspicious or even captured an image of this killer. Now, it's unclear if anyone has come forward. Police have been very clear. They don't want people sharing information or images on social media as they are trying to put this investigation together. We have learned today that the FBI is now involved in this investigation. KNWA-TV is reporting that the Arkansas State Police still the lead in the investigation, but now the FBI, their office out of the capital of Little Rock, is providing resources in hoping that they can bring this killer to justice. All trails in Devil's Den State Park, they are closed until further notice. Police.
So that's an excellent recap of what we have been talking about and how this guy's going to be brought to justice. They're going to catch this guy. It's going to take a little bit of time, but they're absolutely 100% going to catch this guy. It's too serious of a crime. It must be solved. Mike, your final thoughts.
Yeah, for everyone who's watching and, praying for an arrest, you have to have patience with these things. 2 weeks is going to seem like a month. A month is going to seem like 6 months. Rest assured, with the technology and the budget for the FBI to do all the technical things that they need to help the Arkansas State Police find this guy, it's going to take a little time. But they're used to working with the state police in different areas, and with this guy, you've got a picture, you've got the cell phone, maybe geofencing, you got maybe possibly DNA, you got the video. With the car, hopefully that is his car, and so it'll be easy to track him down. But it will happen. It will just take a little time, somewhere between 2 weeks, a month, whatever happens to be. But he will be caught.
100%, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. These are really the heartbreaking cases that we cover, and they need a lot of expertise and they need a lot of sort of tenderness and kindness, because when you cover these things, sometimes it gets to you. It's almost like being back in the squad and working these horrible murders. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon on behalf of myself and Professor Mike Geary. We'll see you the next time. God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.